Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Season 2 of Meat for the Grinder, our series dedicated to Necromunda Dark Uprising Battle Reports. Meat for the Grinder is a Necromunda campaign set in the final days of Hive Arcos, where Chaos, Xenos, and Order clash for control of a collapsing Hive City. And on today's episode, Aqua Cola, the Nurgle Corrupted Outcast gang from the Water Guild, will try to sacrifice the Venator Bounty Killers from the Bloodmoon Hunters in a Blood Rites Scenario to the death. The only question, of course, is who will win? So as you can see here, my two friends, Warlord Ace, as well as myself, will be playing on this one. Warlord Ace is bringing Aqua Cola, his Nurgle Corrupted Water Guild Outcast gang, and I'll be playing my Bloodmoon Hunters, my Venator gang. So far, we've actually been winning pretty well in this campaign. So far, I got 2 victories under my belt, and Warlord Ace has 1. So both our gangs will be throwing it down in a Blood Rites scenario, and I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what kind of chaos and insanity ensues on this battle report. So that being said, because the battle report will be a little bit longer, I will have timestamps in the description box down below, so that way you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's talk about our rosters and what we're bringing for this battle report.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so the scenario rules for this one is called Blood Rites. Pretty much what's going to happen is that my friend Warlord Ace is going to be the attacker while I'm the defender on this one, because he is a Chaos Corrupted gang, so he automatically becomes the attacker. What ends up happening is that he gets to choose 10 fighters to fight in this battle report, but I get D3 plus 3 randomly selected fighters. And what ends up happening is, of course, that the outcasts are trying to attack me and try to sacrifice my fighters in close combat. Whenever one of my fighters goes out of action, what ends up happening is that we don't actually remove them off the tabletop. They actually lay down on the ground is where they stay at. And what ends up happening is the attacker must take a double action called the Blood Ritual double action, and if successful, manages to pass a toughness test, he actually gets to get 1 additional what's called a blood token, and basically that's going to determine whether he wins or loses this scenario as well. Pretty much victory is considered if he actually manages to get 5 or more blood tokens by the time the battle ends, and he basically wins the battle report. At the same time, or during every end phase, I do get a randomly chosen fighter to come onto the tabletop as reinforcement, so I do have that going for me with that as well. Victory conditions for this one is the victor actually ends up winning 5 or more blood tokens by the end of the game, he actually is the winner. Or if I survive all the way to round 9, then pretty much I'm the winner as well, so long as he doesn't have 5 or more blood tokens. Now for rewards on this one, each fighter who takes part in the battle report earns 1 point of experience point, while anybody who actually generates a blood token also earns an experience point as well. The victorious gang earns D3 points reputation. If either gang bottles out, of course, they lose 1 point reputation as well. So with the scenario rules over with, let's go and talk about battle plans as well as deployments. So first, let's talk about battle plans real quick. As you can see, I'm deploying the far upper left-hand corner, while my friend Warlord Ace deploying the bottom right-hand corner. My whole objective is to survive for as long as possible. I am severely outnumbered on this one. Pretty much the idea is supposed to be that basically my small group of warriors are basically going through enemy-held territories, and now they're being ambushed, so that way they can be sacrificed to the Dark Gods. So what I'm planning on doing is actually rallying around the fuel tanks, as you can see there, right in the center top of the battlefield, and pretty much defend from there is pretty much what I'm going to do. That way I have some really good revenues of approach, and my opponent has to come at me. I can shoot at them and designate kill zones, and hopefully just kind of outlast my opponent for the most part. At the same time, of course, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, he's got that huge mob of forces. My buddy Warlord Ace was able to bring an additional fighter as well because he's the attacker in the scenario, so I do have to worry about that as well. So that's pretty much my battle plan is. My battle plan is to survive as long as possible. His, of course, is to get as many blood tokens as he possibly can out of my fighters. So let's go ahead and talk about the deployment real quick for my gang, the Bloodmoon Hunters. And as weird as it may sound, when I actually came up with randomly rolling up my fighters, I actually got all the female fighters in my gang to actually be in this battle report. So the joke is when we were doing this is that basically it was ladies' night and it took a rough turn is basically what ended up happening. So we got some serious like final girl type stuff going on in this battle report, which is kind of neat. So up in the front, of course, I got Piper Kruger, which is my House Caldor legacy fighter. Right behind her is my champion Vi's got a lightning claw as well as a servo claw, and then right next to them, of course, is UR025, which is my iron automata. And right next to them, I got 2 more fighters. I got Lisa Winters in the top there, who's my hunter's armed with a long last. And right next to her, of course, is Jinx, which is my hunt champion, who's armed with an autocannon, and that pretty much makes up my 5 fighters I rolled up for this battle report. Meanwhile, let's go across the battlefield, take a look at Aqua Cola. This is my buddy Warlord Ace and his gang. Right on the bottom there, you got a little fire team led by Kyria du Lural, which is his Siphon Knight. We also got Big B Crumner next on the left-hand side, as well as Power, which is the little Nurgling Chaos Familiar there on the right-hand side. Right next to them, of course, we got 2 more fighters. Those characters are named Treving, as well as Roop to Roop. Roop to Roop is a champion. He's got a grenade launcher, while Kruging's got a shotgun with solid and scatter ammo. So continue on the deployment there on the left-hand side. We have 2 fighters. Those guys' names are Pontian as well as Sotelo. Those guys are armed with twin needle pistols as well as a hotshot lasgun. Leading them is Eros Slagmus, the Dramatis Personae Bounty Hunters, a guy mutant archetype. Right next to them on the right-hand side, that is another 3-man unit there. The guy in the purple cloak is Og Mindazor, which is the Master Nautican for this gang. And right behind him is his Chaos Familiar, Water. On the right-hand side, that is Tariana, who's a Outcast Hive scum who's got a melta gun. And in front of them is Temperance Vandasteer, which is the Subnautican with Armor suit, hazard suit, open fist, as well as photo goggles, as well as respirator. And finally, on the right-hand side, that character's name is Sing Sing, which is a character who's armed with a hazard suit. It's also got a web gun, and right next to him is Treving, which is a character armed with an auto gun as well as an auto pistol. And that pretty much makes a deployment for my friend Warlord Ace. So with deployment over with, let's go and talk about directly to the top of turn number 1, and both of us roll off for initiative to see which of us will be going first. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1, and I managed to win the initiative on this one, so I will be going first. As you can see, all of our fighters receive ready tokens, so with that, I'm going to go with my very first activation. So my very first activation, activate UR025, which is my armor automata. That guy is actually packing a lot of heat. He's got an assault claw as well as a 2 rapid fire auto cannon, which is also assault cannon, which is also quite handy as well. Makes him very, very reliable as a brute, so I decided to activate him first. And for his activation, I pretty much just had him move the entire time. I do a move activation to go up the stairs, as well as to land right in the middle on the 2nd floor of the fuel tanks. That way he's got a good field of vision, so that way he can open fire on his next turn with that assault cannon of his. Meanwhile, Warlord Ace decides to do a group activation real quick with Roop to Roop, which is his ridiculously named champion. He actually did that on purpose just because he wanted to because he knew how to say it out loud. But he's got a grenade launcher with frag and crack grenades. Also does a group activation with his fighter Kruging, which is also armed with a shotgun as well as solid scatter shot. And as you can see, it does a move activation with those guys as well, having to go up the ladder and across the walkway of the fuel tanks, making his way so that way he got a good line of fire directly against my iron automata across the battlefield. So with my next activation, I do a group activation with both Vi, my hunt champion, as well as Piper Kruger, because she's also champion, can also activate both those guys, and actually send them forward to start taking assault positions at the base of the fuel tanks. As you can see, I have them both do move activations, with Piper Kruger taking point, hiding behind the column there on the base of the fuel tower. At the same time, I also have Vi kind of ducking down that darkened hallway to the right-hand side, so that way she could also launch a surprise attack at anybody who comes down that narrow corridor leading directly to the base of the fuel tanks. For Warlord Ace's next activation, it's a group activation with Kira Dularal, who's his Siphonite armed with a needle rifle. She also has a group activation with both of her Chaos Familiar power, as well as Big B Crumb, which is the Dramatis Sunday character, who's also a Slopper. Both those characters do a move activation right at the base of the fuel tanks, making their way and kind of cutting around it to go to the right-hand side, so that way they can assault the flank of the fuel towers where I'm being holed up at this point. And for my very last activation of this turn, I do a group activation with Jinx, who's a Hunt Champion, who's armed with the autocannon, as well as with Alicia Winters, which is my Hunter armed with a long last. And for them, I also do move activations, both of them having Alicia Winters take point, followed up by Jinx. Now, I do have a problem when it comes to Jinx. Jinx is packing autocannon, which is a very powerful heavy weapon, no doubt about it. The only problem, though, is that I didn't actually have enough to actually purchase a suspensor for her character, so because I shall have to use a double action or to open fire with that autocannon as well. So I gotta be really careful about how I use Jinx until I can get her suspensor, because shooting that autocannon is going to act as a double action, so that's going to be kind of rough for her for this battle report. And because all of my fighters have been activated this turn, the rest of the turn is dedicated to my friend Warlord Ace. So the first thing he does, of course, is does another group activation with Sing Sing, which is his champion, armed with a web gun, as well as Treving, which is his outcast Hive Scum, was armed with an auto gun. Those guys do a move activation along the right-hand side of the battlefield. Look like they're trying to button hook around that wall, so that way they can outflank me on the right-hand side. Augmentazor is activated next as a group activation with Temperance Vandersteer, his Subnautica, as well as Tariana, his Outcast Hive Scum Specialist armed with a Melta-Gun. As you can see, they do a move as well, heading directly towards the fuel tank, with Temperance Vandersteer taking point, backed up by Tariana with that powerful Melta-Gun. In the back is Augmentazor, as well as his little Chaos Familiar Water. And for his very last activation, Warlord Ace then also sends up his two fighters, Pontian as well as Sotelo. They both do moves across the underside of the fuel tank, popping over to the side, and right behind them, of course, is Eros Slagmus, making his way to join up with them as well. And that pretty much makes up the action phase for this battle report. So with that, we go directly to the end phase, and the very first thing is I end up getting reinforcements. I roll to see exactly which of my fighters will comes out of my fighter deck to actually represent my gang, and that's going to be Endothor Onyx Blade. My Hunt Champion is armed with an auto pistol as well as a power sword, as well as also got the Nerves of Steel skill. I actually managed to win the roll-off on him to determine where he's going to go, so I put him right directly on the top of the battlefield near the fuel tanks, so that we can charge on the flank there with Temperance Vandersteer in the background. Now, am I going to charge that Subnautican? Probably not, because that's suicide on the suicide walking, but, you know, it's better than doing nothing, I suppose. And with that takes us to the end of turn number 1. As you can see, I'm starting to rally around the fuel tank there, kind of putting up a defensive position. At the same time, Warlord Ace is sending his forces to come attack me from the left-hand side, as well as the top of the tabletop, trying to get me in a full envelopment. So it's going to be really brutal here in the next few turns. A lot of combat taking place right there in the narrow corridors at the base of the fuel tank. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and both Warlord Ace and I roll off for initiative to see which of us will be going first. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 2, and I managed to win the initiative on this one, so I will be going first, which is all kinds of crazy because I got a lot of Waterguild outcasts coming to my way. So I put out ready markers for all of our fighters, and let's go and talk about my very first activation. So my very first activation, I do a group activation with Vi as well as Piper Kruger. So because I just removed the ready markers, and the first person I decide to activate is Piper Kruger in this group activation. So the fighter I decided to activate with is Piper Kruger, and the reason why is because she has bomb delivery rats. As a House Caldor Legacy Hunter, she does have access to these guys. These guys, of course, are armed with frag grenades. So I take an intelligence check and manage to pass my intelligence check no problem. So because a little bomb rat is deployed, represented by that little Skaven miniature, and I send him on his way to blow up some Waterguild outcasts. As you can see, I send right in the middle of Pontian Sotelo, and kaboom! Managed to blast that huge 3-inch blast template with the frag grenade, catching both those fighters in the blast. So that part was absolutely fantastic. Managed to roll a 2 up on that one, so that part was perfect, allowing that explosion to take place. And after the ensuing shrapnel and destruction, I managed to do some pretty good damage on this one. Managed to slip through Pontian's armor save on that one. And the reason was because Pontian is only wearing a hazard suit, so he has an armor save of 6 up. Managed to put that guy with an out cold result. So just like that, first blood goes directly to my gang. And to make things even better, I managed to put a serious injury directly onto Sotelo. So Sotelo's laying on the ground right now. He is currently bleeding out in the cold hard concrete, which is unfortunate for him because all I gotta do is send in Vi to charge into him, and I could take him down with a coup de grace. And that's exactly what I do. I roll a 6 on my charge because I add 3 inches to Vi's charge. It goes directly into Sotelo. Managed to take that guy out too with that out of action result, with an out cold result. So because that he is no longer participating in this battle report either. And just like that, I netted 2 kills in the very first opening round of turn number 2, and also some really nice experience points for both Vi as well as Piper Kruger. So not to be outdone, my friend World Ace decides to activate Era Slagmist next. He declares a charge directly against Vi, rolls a d6 and rolls a, I think he rolls a 4 on his charge because it gets 2 more inches added to his charge distance. And just like that, he gets into basic contact with Vi and engages her in close combat. Now, originally, I wasn't scared because I knew Nero Slagmist, the Bounty Hunter, wasn't really all that well equipped. However, though, what I did not count on the fact was that my buddy Warlord Ace changed up his loadout. Instead of just having a fighting knife and a last pistol, he's actually packing a needle pistol as well as a synth knife as well, a stiletto knife as well, which means those weapons have toxin trace. All he has to do is hit me, and if he manages to beat my toughness, I will automatically go out of action. So that part I did not see coming, especially since he's also got 3 attacks on the charge, so oof, actually ended up being really brutal. Managed hit me all 3 times as well. I managed to pass 2 of my toughness checks, but with the third one I was able to do so. So because unfortunately Vi does go down, when I rolled for the injury on this one, of course, unfortunately I rolled 64, which is a critical injury, which means that Vi, of course, will need to take a medical escort mission at the end of the battle report. I do have a rogue dog, so it shouldn't be that bad, but if I end up being another critical injury in this battle report, it could prove disastrous for my gang. So just like that, my champion gets taken out right off the bat by Era Slagmist, so that part was insane. To make matters worse, Piper Kruger actually failed her cool test after watching her champion getting, deep 6 by Era Slagmist. So because as she goes running back, I think 11 inches back the opposite way she came, directly back to the deployment zone. And to be perfectly honest, I really can't blame her. After all, if I saw Vi get taken down with some toxin attacks from a mutated bounty hunter, I might not stick around either. So in response to that, I do activate UR025. Now originally I wanted him to actually shoot at Era Slagmist, but the way that the alignment is with my shot, I do not have line of sight on that character, so because that is kind of bad, it's basically in the dead space caused by the base of that walkway he's on. So he does only has Ballistic Steel 4, so I really wanted to take advantage of the fact I wanted to take a basic action aim. So instead of actually shooting at him, I decided to shoot across the way directly towards Roop to Roop as well as Kruging. So I take a basic action aim, getting +1 to my Ballistic Skill, give me Ballistic Skill 3 up, and I open fire my autocannon, getting 5 shots with that assault cannon, so that part was perfect. And as you can see, I have no problem whatsoever just taking these guys apart. I managed to put Kruging out of action, making him partially deafened, so he loses 1 to his leadership characteristics, so that part was amazing. And at the same time, I managed to put a wound on Roop to Roop as well. Now luckily for my buddy Warlord Ace though, Roop to Roop does pass his initiative test, so he doesn't have to worry about falling. But yeah, that part was absolutely fantastic. I managed to take all those guys out with some extreme prejudice with some assault cannon fire. So with that, Warlord Ace has another group activation, this time activating Sing Sing, who also has a group activation with Treving. So because I decided to move out Treving first, don't fire with his autogun. Treving does a simple action move directly towards the base of that wall, opens fire with his autogun directly into Indorthor Onyx Blade. But unfortunately for my friend Warlord Ace though, he does fail to hit me, he misses his shot, so I'm perfectly fine. Unfortunately, this also means that Treving is also blocking that avenue approach as well, so when Warlord Ace moves up his champion Sing Sing, all he can do is move up a normal moon allowance and just basically loses the second half of his activation because there's not much you can really do at this point. So for my next activation, I decided to do a group activation once again with Jinx as well as Alicia Winter, so I activate both of my fighters, and I start off with Alicia Winter first. Alicia Winters does a simple movement to move directly towards the bridge, going across the walkway of the chemical tank towers, and then she takes a basic action open fire with her long blast directly into Temperance Vandasir, who she got a beautiful line of sight on. Now I do manage to hit Temperance Vandasir, which is great. Unfortunately though, I wasn't able to wound him, so all I can do right now is just pin that huge behemoth so he goes down, which basically means you have to lose a basic action for to get back on its feet again. So there is a bright side to all that. But the most extreme thing, as I said, to do with is have Jinx open fire their autocannon directly into Treving all the way across the battlefield. I do a basic action so that way she can aim with her autocannon, so that way she doesn't have to worry about partial cover, remove that penalty. So she still gets a 2-up to fire with that autocannon, which is fantastic. And to add just a bunch of cherry on top of the epicness of this ice cream sundae of a shot, I managed to hit him as well. Managed to hit him twice as well, putting 2 wounds right through on his armor. So I rolled it for, of course, rolled out of action for that character. He does suffer a hand injury, so because of that, he will go into recovery as well. At the same time, lose 1 to his weapon skill, making weapon skill 5. So just like that, Treving gets blown apart by that autocannon. And to make things even better, unfortunately, my friend Warlord Ace Sing Sing decides that he's going to run away because he just saw his friend get blown apart by an autocannon. And let's face it, if Jinx was to open fire with you on autocannon in real life, you'd probably run away as well. Basically, fails his cool test. I think runs back like 10 or 11 inches directly back to the well. Just kind of dives right into the water, I suppose, because he doesn't want to die right now. And I really can't blame him, because I'd probably do exactly the same thing if that happened to me. So going back to my friend Warlord Ace, he decides to activate Roop to Roop, which was this champion of the Great Launcher. He got shot early in the turn. He does a basic action, get back on his feet again. Another basic action would fire with a crack grenade directly at UR025. Unfortunately, though, he misses his shot, so the shot goes wide. Nothing ends up happening, and they just kind of stare at each other awkwardly against the open gap. I imagine these two guys are yelling insults at each other. So from next activation, end of activate Endithor Onyx Blade, which is my Hunt champion armed with an auto pistol. It was a power sword, and I kind of hesitate here, and I don't know if I made a good or bad plan by doing this, but you know, I did what I did, so I'm going to report exactly as I did it. The problem I ran into is I realized there was not enough space for me to actually charge across the battlefield to send Endithor Onyx Blade into close combat with Temperance Vanishir. So because I said actually I'm trying to charge forward, just only get shot with a Melt-A-Gun, I decided to have to move a little bit out of the corner, kind of peek around so that way you can open fire with the auto pistol directly into Temperance Vanishir. Now, granted, it's just a normal auto pistol with no any kind of special ammo attached to it, but you never know. You might roll a 6, you might cause some damage, so that's exactly what I went with. I decided to open fire with my auto pistol, and of course it did absolutely nothing against him. But what it did do, however, was capture his attention. So Warlord Ace spends a basic action to stand up Temperance Vanishir on his feet again. Another basic action to move forward directly towards Endithor Onyx Blade. And boys and girls, this is why you don't poke a sleeping bear when you run across one in the forest. So that part is kind of insane. And because Temperance Vanishir was part of a larger group activation, Mog Mindazor as well as Tariana both do move across the battlefield, going directly to the base of the fuel tanks, so that way they can't get shot at. Looks like what he's planning on doing is that Warlord Ace is planning on sending these fighters either up to climb up the tower to assault my guys, or to circle on the back. So either way, though, it's bad for me. And with that, that takes directly to the end of the turn number 2. As you can see, the Water Guild is slowly starting to swarm around me, so I'm going to try to fight all the different fighters of Aqua Cola as well. At the same time, I did lose a couple of my fighters because they broke their nerves or they went out of action, which is kind of rough. So I do have my work cut out for me, especially if I manage to survive turn number 3. So once again, if you do notice, Vi, of course, has not been removed off the tabletop, even though she's been taken out of action. The reason why is because she could be victimized using the Blood Rites rules, which basically means that any fighter from the Water Guild, if they do a double action against her and pass a toughness check, they're able to take out a Blood Rite token out of my character. So I do have to worry about that, because if they get 5 or more blood tokens, then I lose the battle report. So the GAT would go directly to cool test, and I forgot to take a photo of this. Earlier, but my character Piper Krugen does manage to pass her cool test. So because she does regain her nerve, also earns a bonus point of experience as well. I do apologize for neglecting to take that photo. As for Sing Sing over here, unfortunately he did fail his cool test, so he's still currently hiding out, submerging himself beneath the depths of the well, so that way he doesn't get killed. So when I go through my fighter deck, I randomly draw Shroom as my next fighter ship on the tabletop, and I do win the roll-off to determine where he goes. So because I park him right in the middle of my enemy's deployment zone, because I'm going to have Shroom charge in directly into that cowardly champion and hopefully take him out in close combat. So with that all said and done, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and once again, I imagine win the initiative on this one once again, so I will be going first for turn number 3, and it's time for a little bit of payback. Alright, so that takes me to the top of turn number 3, and I have a very difficult decision to make just because I realize that Temperance Vanishir is heading towards Endithor Onyx Blade. Now I got a really difficult choice to make. Option 1, I go charging directly into this guy and take him on in close combat. The only reason why I don't do that, though, is because you look right next to him on the right hand side, there is an endless pit right over there. All Temperance Vanishir has to do is survive whatever I throw at him and just hit me once. I get knocked back directly into that abyss, which I really don't want to happen for my character. So because of that, I decided that caution is probably the better part of valor, and I decided to run for it. And as you can see, like running like a chicken with his head cut off, and the Onyx Blade runs back. His full movement allows her to try to escape Temperance Vanishir just because I don't want him to come after me. Hopefully, however, my buddy Warlord Ace will take the base and still have him chase after my fighter. If he does that, that'll be fantastic. But yeah, I was not in the mood to actually fight that Subnauticon. No way. So going back to Warlord Ace decides to do a group activation with Mindazor, who also activates Tariana as well as with Slagma. So Slagma actually goes first, decides to do a double action directly against Vi's body and to actually get some blood for the Blood Rites. And manages to successfully do so, earning 1 Blood Rite token so far. He needs 5 in order to win the battle report, so that part is kind of rough for me. For his next activation, he activates Tariana. Now, Tariana moves up her normal movement allowance and takes another basic action to open fire with her melted gun directly at Piper Kruger. Now, there's only one good thing about this shot, and that is because Piper Kruger is not in the short range category of the melted gun, so the melted gun loses its melt weapons trait, which is kind of nice, but it's still a melted gun, and as you probably expect, it just absolutely devastates my character. Unfortunately, when it's all said and done, Piper Kruger is seared well. She goes collapsing and falling to the ground with a serious injury, so she's currently bleeding out right now. And to make matters worse, she also suffered a blush wound as well, so she's only toughness 2. So that part is horrible because all that needs to happen is for somebody to charge into her and take her out of action with the coup de grace. So that part is horrific. So now to be outdone, I decided to activate UR025. My Iron Automata does a basic action to aim with his auto cannon, assault cannon, so that way he gets +1 to hit, giving him a 4-up ballista skill. And the reason why is because he can be aimed directly for Eros Slagmus. Eros Slagmus does benefit a little bit from the partial cover because he is partially cut off by that walkway, so he only makes him ballistic skill 4. But I decided to take a chance, open fire with my assault cannon. I do manage to hit Eros Slagmus and manage to put a wound on him as well, so that part was kind of nice. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to take him out of action, so that part was kind of sad. But to make matters worse, UR025 actually rolled an ammo roll check on that one, so I do have to take an ammo check. Unfortunately, his assault cannon is at a 6-up armor ammo check, and of course I failed it. It's also got the scarce trait, which means when I do run out of ammunition and I fail my ammo check, I'm completely out for the rest of the turn. So just like that, UR025 no longer has a really good assault cannon anymore. I just have his power claw that I can use in close combat. So go back to Warlord Ace, he decides to activate Roop to Roop next, who takes a basic action to aim with his grenade launcher, another basic action to fire a crack shell directly at UR025. He does manage to hit my Iron Automata, but unfortunately for him though, he fails to wound, rolls a 1 on the wound roll, so because that UR025 is just pinned right now, so that part was kind of sad. And because I'm angry that they took a shot at UR025, I activate Elysia Winters. Elysia Winters is a basic action aim with their weapons, that way it gets +1 to her ammo check, so that way all she has to do is not roll a 1 as she hits, and she opens fire with her long last directly at Roop to Roop, who's all the way across the battlefield from her. Not only do I manage to hit Roop to Roop, I also managed to wound that fighter as well, and just like that, managed to put a serious injury directly onto that champion. So that champion goes crashing face down into the decking, is currently bleeding out right now, and is also slowly dying. Luckily for my friend Warlord Ace, though, he did pass his initiative test for Roop to Roop, so Roop to Roop does not fall off the bridge onto the ground, but he's currently on the ground, he's bleeding, and he's basically regretting his life choices. It was at this moment that my buddy Warlord Ace realized he did not get a chance to move his leader. He did activate Eros Slagmus as well as Tariana, but he forgot to move his leader. So he did ask me if he could actually activate his leader, even though he forgot to do so earlier. And because, it doesn't bother me that happens, because, we make these kind of mistakes sometimes, and we're just playing for fun. So I said, yeah, man, go ahead and activate your fighter. So that's exactly what he decides to do. The first thing it does, of course, it takes a basic action to activate his psychic ability, the Quickening, which he gets off no problem, which gives him +3 to his movement, his initiative, weapon skill, as well as ballista skill. So this guy has all kinds of crazy in his characteristics. And he takes another simple action to climb directly onto the top of the walkway as well. Now, usually I would not recommend this kind of move for most people to assault a position like this, especially if they don't have another activation for them to do anything. But at the same time, though, he also has a Chaos Familiar as well. So if anybody tries to take a pot shot at Augmentazor, all he has to do is pass a really easy willpower test for himself, and he ignores that shot. So it's actually, for most people, it would be suicide. But if you got a Chaos Familiar of some sort, it's actually not a really bad plan. So for my next activation, I activate Shroom, who declares a charge directly against Sing Sing, and it actually charges directly into him for close combat. As you can imagine, I have no problem whatsoever rolling off to get the charge. I think I rolled like an additional inch to his charge distance, which is well within his charge range. So because that Shroom goes directly into Sing Sing and engaging him in close combat with his chainsword as well as a stub gun. And luckily for me, my character had no problem putting the hurt directly onto Sing Sing. Managed to take that character out of action with a coup de grace as well, giving him an out cold results because that Sing Sing will go out of action for the rest of the battle report, and at the same time netting another kill for my gang in this battle report. And Warlord Ace decides not to take the bait. He decides he's not going to send Temperance Vaness here to go after Endithor Onyx Blade. Instead, he decides to have him go directly towards the right. As you can see, Temperance Vaness does a move action directly towards the base of the fuel tanks. That way he can climb up on it his next turn, and of course start causing some pain for the rest of my fighters on the fuel tank towers. So our next activation, I had to activate Jinx. Now, unfortunately for me, I don't have a suspensor for my autocannon, so because she can't move and fire her autocannon the same turn, because firing her autocannon would be required to do a double action instead. But she is packing a stub gun with dum-dum rounds as a sidearm, so I decided to actually use that for my next attack. So Jinx does a simple action move of 4 to normal moon allowance, that way she's got a good line of sight against Augmentazor, does another basic action open fire with her stub gun with dum-dum rounds directly into that leader. And I managed to hit him as well, as crazy as it may sound. Luckily for me, my opponent did fail his willpower test, so he does get hit by that dum-dum round. Unfortunately, though, I do fail my wound test, so because he is currently pinned right now, so he's perfectly fine. He does pass his initiative test, and doesn't worry about falling off the building edge, which makes sense because he's initiative 1 right now, so that part was kind of brutal. So for Warlord Ace's next activation, he activates Cara Dularal, who is his Siphonite, who does a group activation with Bugbeak Crumb, the mercenary Dramatis Personae Slopper. Cara Dularal actually does a move action all the way to the base of the fuel tank. It looks like she plans on sending that fighter to climb up directly to the top of the fuel tank tower, and Big Beak Crumb actually stopped right next to Vi. It looks like what ends up happening is that he's going to use him to do a Blood Rites double action next turn, so that he can get another blood token for his gang. And for my last activation, I decided to activate Piper Kruger, because even though she can't fight right now, she's still trying to crawl away and try to save her own life. And that's exactly what I do. I pour it back 2 inches around the corner so that way she just gets shot at again, because there's not really much I could do for that fighter anyways. And with that being said, that pretty much ends the action phase for this turn. So with that, we go directly to the end phase, and here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, I am slowly losing ground to the Water Guild. They're just outnumbering me so much. My gang, however, is doing an excellent job of taking fools out left and right and center, so that part is kind of cool. I managed to take out, what, 4 fighters so far from the Water Guild, so I'm not doing bad. I'm pretty much holding my own. But at the same time, though, the massive Water Guild guys coming after me, though, is going to play a major role if I don't come up with something quick. So the first things we got to do, of course, is recovery test. Unfortunately for me, Piper Kruger does fail her recovery test. She actually rolls a out of action result. So because that, she does go out of action. She suffers an out cold result, which is a good result, so she'll make a full recovery, no problem. But still, though, that's one less fighter I have on the tabletop, which is bad. However, what is not bad is that Root Troop also fails their injury roll as well. When they roll for their injury die, they rolled a out of action result, and because we rolled an elastic injury table for Root Troop, suffers a spinal injury. So just like that, Root Troop is now strength 2, and at the same time goes in recovery as well. So chalk another loss for the Water Guild to my gang. So like I said, my gang is doing pretty good in putting out the casualties, but slowly I am being enveloped by the Water Guild, and that part is not so great. What is great, however, though, are my reinforcements. My gang leader, Tiberius Cage, shows up on the tabletop as well. I managed to roll successfully pass the roll-off for him to determine where he goes. I put him right directly on the bottom of the table, facing down Big Beak Crumb. My character, of course, is packing a melted gun. He has the nerves of steel as well as hip shooting, so I'm looking forward to actually causing the pain with this character, because this guy is like my #1 killer in my gang. So with that, we start directly at the top of turn number 4, and the Water Guild finally gets the initiative this time around, which I really can't be too upset about. I was able to control the initiative for the first 3 rounds of battle. It's about time my buddy Warlord Ace managed to get the turn, so he will be going first in this turn 4. So for his very first activation, my friend Warlord Ace decides to activate Big Beak Crumb. Big Beak Crumb does a simple action move of 4, does normal moon allowance, another base action to pop the slot pot, decides to actually use the number 6 ability, which basically allows him to use like a Beast's Lair ability. So it pops it right there on the top of his slot pot, so that way if I do try to move past him and I end my activation within 6 inches of it, I do get attacked by that Monster's Lair bonus token. Unfortunately for Warlord Ace, for my next activation, I had to activate Tiberius Cage, who does a basic action open fire with his melted gun directly at Big Beak Crumb. To make matters worse, he is within close range of the melted gun, so because it does go out of action as well, and when he does so, I believe he rolls Convalescence, I believe is what he actually rolled for that character, but because of that, he does roll a lasting injury on that one, and that means he automatically leaves the service of the Water Guild as well. So just like that, my buddy Warlord Ace did lose Big Beak Crumb, so if he wants to recruit him again later on, he will have to hire him again all over again. But not to be outdone by what has just happened, of course, Warlord Ace decides to activate Aeroslagmus instead, so he does a basic action get back on his feet again. And he does take another basic action, open fire with his needle pistol directly into my character Tiberius Cage, which is absolutely horrific. Now he does manage to hit me, but luckily for me though, I do pass my toughness test, so because I am perfectly fine, so no harm, no foul. I'm just currently pinned right now, but that could have easily gone the other way, and I'm really grateful that it didn't. So my next activation, I decided to activate Onyx Blade Endithor of Onyx Blade again, so instead of actually having run away, I decided to bring him back into the fight. During his activation, does a move to go back directly where he came from, right where that pillar is, so that way he can get back to the fight on his next turn. So up next, we decide to go back to my friend Warlord Ace, who decides to do an activation with Augmendazor, which is his Master Nautican. He does a basic action, get back on his feet again, and another basic action, move up forward to get directly towards my character. I think the reason why he plans on doing that because he wants to engage my UR025 in close combat. He is packing a stiletto knife as well as a needle pistol, so he could take me out with toxin attacks. Now, I know it sounds ridiculous to say this, but yes, we are allowing him to use a toxin trait against UR025 because that's how rules are written right now, even though UR025 is a machine, but you know, them's the breaks. So for next activation, I decided to activate Shroom, and because Shroom is such a slow mover, I decided to have him use his grapnel launcher, which means he can travel 12 inches in any direction that he wants. And just like the Dark Knight himself, I have him launch directly across the tabletop, directly onto the top of the walkway, so that way he can start outflanking my enemy, and hopefully I can surround my enemy right there in the center zone, and then kill them en masse. That's my overall plan at this point. For Warlord Ace's next activation, I do a group activation with Kyria Dulaw, who's Cypher Knight, who's down below, and at the same time also there's a group activation of Temperance Vanderstir, his Subnauticum that's right next to him on the right hand side there, and they both do movements in order to climb the structure. And you can see Kyria Dulaw as well as her Chaos Familiar Water, they end up directly on the top of the walkway there. Same thing with Temperance Vanderstir, so now the entire Water Guild delegation is facing down my gang on the top of these fuel tanks. So for my next activation, I do a group activation, activating Jinx, who also does a group activation with Elisa Winters, and I actually have Jinx go first. Jinx actually, of course, opens fire with her autocannon. It is going to be a double action in order to do so because she does not have a dispenser on it, but I have her aim the autocannon directly at Temperance Vanderstir as well. And the destruction that ensued afterward was absolutely fantastic. Managed to hit Temperance Vanderstir 3 different times and wound him 3 times as well, cutting right through his armor. Was all said and done, I actually managed to put a critical injury on this guy as well. Not only did I shoot him, but he also fell off the ledge as well and crashed to the ground like a meteor. He suffered a critical injury on that part, so he will have to take a medical escort mission at the end of the battle report, otherwise he will die. Now, of course, this caused Kyria Dulaw to actually take a cool test, and she failed her cool test, so because of that, she ran off the ledge and knocked she onto the ground in order to escape the hell that's coming her way. So double victory on that one. Augmentazor, however, he managed to pass his cool test no problem. And then if Kyria Dulaw tried to open fire with her long last directly into Augmentazor, but unfortunately for me though, I missed my shot, so no harm, no foul. What was foul, however, was Tiriana. The reason why Tiriana is so bad is because the reason why she's going to come back onto the, she gets activated next, and she's also packing a Meltagun. Now, originally, I totally forgot about this, but technically speaking, Tiriana could actually move back her movement allowance directly back towards the center of the battlefield and take another basic action over to fire their Meltagun directly onto Tiberius Cage, and that part is horrific. And that's exactly what Warlord Ace decides to do. He moves back Tiriana back her normal moon allowance and has her open fire our Meltagun directly towards Tiberius Cage. Now, luckily for me, though, because she doesn't get the ability to aim yet, and she is an outcast fighter, she has 4 ballistic skill. Unfortunately for my buddy, though, he failed his ballistic test. I think he rolled like a 2 in order to hit, so because of that, the shot misses, and I'm counting my blessings right now because that could have ended really, really badly for Tiberius Cage. So for my next activation, activate UR025. He does a basic action, get back on his feet again, so that way he can stand back up again, and another basic action for him to attack with his Salt Claw directly into Augmentazor. Luckily for me, I was able to put a wound directly onto Augmentazor. When Augmentazor tried to attack back, unfortunately for him though, he failed to hit me both times with his weapon, so I got really lucky on that part. So we're still engaged in close combat at this point. And with that, that takes directly to the end phase. Here's overshot, headshot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, unfortunately for my buddy Warlord Ace, he is losing a lot of members of his gang right now. He originally started with 11 fighters on this tabletop, and as you can see from this photo, he basically only has 4 guys left at the 11 guys he did bring in with him. So he does outnumber me at the beginning of the battle report, but I've been slowly whittling his forces, so it's been slowly, the tide has been turning directly into my favor. And to make matters worse, of course, when it came to the bottle test, Aqua Cola did fail their bottle test, so they will need to take cool tests for all their fighters for the next turn to see if they actually stick on the battlefield, so that part's kind of tragic. And unfortunately for Warlord Ace, just more tragedy strikes for him. Kyria Dulaw does not pass her cool test, so because her nerve is still broken, so she'll be running her next activation as well. And rounding out the list of the end phase of my reinforcements, I do get Clint Tombstone, which is one of my hunters. Unfortunately for me, though, I do fail the roll-off for him, so because of that, Warlord Ace decides to place Clint Tombstone on the very far left-hand side of the battlefield, as far from the action as possible. But at this point, it doesn't really matter, though, and the reason why is because Warlord Ace decides to kind of surrender at this point. He's lost 6 members of his gang that I managed to put out of action. He doesn't want to lose any more fighters he already has, and he has this sneaky suspicion that he's not going to be able to pull out 5 blood tokens by the end of the battle report. So just like that, he decides to surrender, which nets a victory for my gang, the Bloodmoon Hunters. So that being said, we're going to go directly to the post-game because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, so up first, talk about Warlord Ace and his gang, Aqua Cola of the Water Guild, Outcast. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about his injuries, the Dark Ritual, his advancements, territories, his training post, reputation, new record, as well as his new rank for his gang. So first up, let's talk about injuries. Unfortunately for Warlord Ace, he lost 8 fighters of his gang in this battle report, which actually led to my victory on this one. So first of all, we have Roop to Roop, who suffered a spinal injury. His champion loses 1 point to his strength and also goes in recovery. His champion Sing Sing, as well as his fighters Sotelo, as well as Pontian, suffer out cold results. They make full recoveries with no problems whatsoever. Now, Temperance Vanderstir actually originally suffered a critical injury, so he does have to do a medical escort mission. So he does visit their rogue dog named Old Sawbones, and when they rolled on the result, they actually rolled an out cold result. So because that Temperance Vanderstir makes a full recovery, no problem. Treving, on the other hand, suffers a hand injury, so he loses 1 point to his weapon skill and he goes into recovery. Kruging is partially deafened, so he loses 1 point to his leadership, but makes a full recovery, no problem. And Big B Crumb, because he suffered a lasting injury, he left the service of the gang, so he's no longer part of the Aqua Cola gang anymore. So for the Dark Ritual, Sotelo was randomly selected to become the vassal of the Dark Ritual, so that way they can gain the favor of Nurgle again, but unfortunately for my buddy Warlord Ace, he failed the role on the Dark Ritual, as well as with the other contributing factors involved with his role, and because they lost the favor of Nurgle, so now his gang does not receive any benefits whatsoever. So because that Augmentazor loses his extra point of wounds on that part, at the same time he also loses his ability to reroll a failed injury dice during his activation as well. And to make matters actually kind of interesting, because they failed the Dark Ritual, Sotelo is then transformed. He's actually transformed into a Chaos Spawn with the number 2 set of characteristics, but we'll talk about him a little bit more here in a second. So here is Sotelo now in his great Chaos Spawn form. As you can see, he's got D6 movement, 4+ weapon skill, 4 strength, 6 toughness, 2 wounds, 4 initiative, and 2 attacks as well. He's also got the Warp Monstrosity skill, as well as Mindless Beast special rule, as well as the Out of Control special rule as well. So just like that, my buddy Warlord Ace actually gets the first Chaos Spawn of the campaign. So one member of his gang did level up. That person was Era Slagmist, leveled up to level 1 on this one, and because he is a mutant archetype, he decides to take the Tentacles mutation as well. It also increases his credit value by 20 credits as well. What Tentacles allows him to do, of course, is allow him to actually reroll initiative tests, at the same time also give him a parry in close combat as well. So this guy is actually getting quite deadly in close combat. So from his territories, from his Chaos Fane, he was able to recruit a new Outcast Hive scum named Van Damon is his name. He actually equipped Van Damon with Sotelo's old equipment lists, and at the same time managed to drum up 20 credits from that territory. At the same time, from his Slave Pit territory, he was able to earn 2 experience points for Roop to Roop, as well as 3 experience points for Water, his Chaos familiar, as well as 2 bonus experience points for Sotelo. And at the same time, also managed to drum up 10 credits from that as well. From his settlement territory, he was able to score 50 credits from that territory, and from his Hab level. Unfortunately for him, though, he lost his Hab level to my gang, the Bloodmoon Hunters, because he took so many casualties in this battle report. And like I mentioned before, I did get a new fighter in his little gang named Van Damon. His name is Outcast Hive Scum. As you can see here, he's equipped exactly the same way as Sotelo was, taking Sotelo's Lost Gun, Hot Shot with the Hot Shot Last Pack, his last pistol photo goggles, as well as his hazard suit. So for the trading post, he's able to secure 80 credits from his territories, and when combined with the 25 credits from his stash, gave him 105 credits in total. With those 105 credits, he decided to place that directly in the stash because he wasn't sure what he was going to get for his gang at this point. And I really can't blame him. So in the end, Aqua Cola was able to secure 1 additional point of reputation because of the campaign week. Unfortunately, though, his gang decided to bottle out on this battle report because they do lose that additional point of reputation that he earned. So his grand total now is at 8 points of reputation in total. His new record now is at 1 win and 1 loss, and his new gang right now is at 2,650 points. So with that, let's go talk about my gang, the Bloodmoon Hunters of the Venators. Once again, we'll talk about the injuries I suffered, the advancements I had, the monies I drummed up for my territories, what I would spend my money on for my trading post, as well as give you our update for reputation, our new record, as well as our new gang rating. So unfortunately, I did suffer 2 injuries on this one. Vi, my champion, suffered a critical injury, so because I did have to do a medical escort mission to the organic mechanic, who is my road doc in my gang, when we actually rolled for a result, she rolled a convalescence, and so because that, she makes a full recovery, no problem. She just can't take any post-battle actions, and that's perfectly fine. As for Piper Kruger, of course, she rolled an out cold result, so she makes a full recovery, so no harm, no foul. For advancements, quite a few members of my gang did advance on this one. Tiberius Cage actually leveled up to level 2, and I was able to actually secure 12 experience points all said and done, just because that Hard as Nails, as well as No Gods or Master special really helped out my gang and my leader getting experience points on this one. So because I decided to choose the sprint skill, which is his second, agility is our secondary skill for this gang, so I decided to choose that skill and also increase my credit total by 35 points in total. And the reason why I decided to choose sprint is because he can actually move 3 times in the movement allowance, so that way if I want to use hip shooting, I could actually travel up to, 15 inches, and then have him open fire with that mega melt again. So a really powerful ability to have combined with hip shooting as well. Jinx also leveled to level 2. I also increased her movement characteristic by 1 inch and also gave her plus 10 dirt credit total. Alicia Winters also leveled up as well, and I rolled up on the random table to see what she leveled up. I chose plus 1 to willpower. Now that gives her a 10 up to her credit total as well. Shroom leveled up to level 1, and when he rolled for his roll, he actually leveled plus 1 to his weapon skill. So now he's weapon skill 3, increasing his credit value by 20 credits. UR025, I decided to spend his 5 experience points to increase his initiative's characteristics. So that way he's initiative 4 instead of initiative 5, and also increase his characteristics by 10 credits in total. And of course, Piper Kruger also leveled to level 1, and when she rolled up for hers, rolled up intelligence. So because she's intelligence 5 now, so she can deploy those bomb rats even easier, and also increased her characteristics by 5 credits in total as well. So for my territories, for my settlement territory, I recruited a new hunter named with characteristics number 1 named Shim Basayo is his name. I equipped that guy with a chainsaw as well because he comes with 25 credits of equipment, and also managed to raise 30 credits from that territory. For my Untitled Shrine, nobody ended up getting any blessings this time around, but I did manage to drum up 30 credits from that territory. For my Manufactorium level, I got a pole arm for free because I'll be able to get 30 points of credits worth of weapons on a single weapon from the Manufactorium, and also managed to increase my credits by 20 credits on as well. From the Slave Pits, I managed to get 3 bonus experience points for Lisa Winters, as well as 1 bonus experience point for UR025, and also managed to raise 20 credits from that territory. For my Ashgate territory, I was able to recruit a new hunter with characteristics number 1 named Lobo Loomis, and also managed to get 80 credits from that territory. And then from the Hab level, which I captured from the Aqua Cola, I was able to increase my reputation by 3 points, and also managed to secure 60 credits from that territory. So from the trading post, I was able to secure 240 credits from my territories, as well as 20 credits from my stash, as well as 50 credits from the Price of Victory special rule that's in effect for this campaign week, which means that anybody who wins earns additional D6 times 10 credits. With all that together, that gives me 260 credits in total. With those 260 credits, I decided to spend 60 credits to buy a Suspensor for Jinx, because that way she can fire her autocannon as a basic action. I also spent 75 credits to purchase a Hand Flamer for Shim Basaya, my newly recruited hunter. I also decided to spend 30 credits to buy just mesh armor for Shim Basaya, as well as for Lobo Loomis, my 2 new hunters I also got. I also spent another 10 credits for an auto pistol for Lobo Loomis, as well as spending 20 credits to purchase Dum Dum rounds for Tiberius Cage, Crack Orc Slayer, Morgan Showtime Creed, as well as Clem Tombstone. All those fighters have stub guns with their sidearms, so I want to make them their strength 4 in their shooting attacks, so give them Dum Dum rounds. At the same time, I also spent 30 credits for Manstopper rounds for Endothor Onyx Blade, Elisa Winters, as well as for Lobo Loomis. Those 3 fighters are packing auto pistols, and Manstopper rounds give them 4 strength up 4 attacks, both in their shooting attacks as well as in close combat. And finally, I spent 10 credits to purchase an axe for Lisa Winters, that way she has a close combat weapon, as well as 20 credits for a flail for Morgan Showtime Creed. I also spent 20 credits for a sword for Clem Tombstone, and I put the 30 remaining credits I had left over directly into my stash as well for working capital. So here's a close-up of my hunter that I recruited, Shim Basaya. He's my hunter. Of course, they got the versatile stat line there on the left-hand side. He's packing mesh armor as well as a hand flamer and a chain sword. And lastly is my other hunter, Lobo Loomis. He's also a hunter. He's got 115 credits. He's got a versatile stat line as well. He's also got mesh armor, pole arm, as well as auto pistol with Manstopper rounds as well. And the reason why I decided to go with close combat for these guys is because that's pretty much how the entirety of this list is built, to be a close assault list. And so that's the reason why I decided to do that. I'm really enjoying using the close combat list. Usually I like to stick with more shooting heavy lists, but having this close assault, close quarters battle list is actually much of a challenge for me. And I'm enjoying actually facing that challenge every single time. It just actually makes me be a little bit more creative in the way I do things. So in the end, for reputation, I was able to earn 1 point reputation for the campaign week, as well as 1 bonus reputation for Hard as Nails special role for my unaligned benefit. I also got 2 reputation points for my territories and secured 3 reputation points for my scenario, giving me a grand total of 15 points reputation in total. My new record now is at 3 wins and 0 losses, and my new gang rank now is at 3,185 points. So there you guys have it. This makes up this one for Battle Report number 11. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blog.com for all the greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. I'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.